What if the truth could drive you insane? What if God was dead and you were the one who killed him? And what if the price for seeing too deeply into existence was your own mind? In a cold street of Turin, Italy, a man collapses in tears, clutching a horse. He screams, trembles, and is never the same again. That man was Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher who dared to look into the abyss and found that the abyss looked back. This is not just a story of ideas. It's the story of a man who turned philosophy into fire, and in the process burned himself alive. Chapter 1, The Birth of a Rebel, 1844 to 1869, God's Orphan, born in Rücken, Prussia, 1844. A pastor's son, a quiet boy with haunting eyes. His father, a deeply religious man, died from a mysterious brain ailment when Nietzsche was just 5. Then his little brother died. Nietzsche grew up surrounded by mourning women and the silence of death. At age 12, he wrote in his diary, "The world is deep, and deeper than day had ever comprehended." From the beginning, Nietzsche was not like other children. He was reading Greek tragedies while others played games. He saw through polite society, through religion, through everything. He was a prodigy. At 24, he became the youngest ever professor of classical philology at the University of Basel. But Nietzsche was already suffocating inside the ivory tower. He was about to break every rule philosophy had ever known. Chapter 2, Nietzsche's War Against Morality. We have killed him. God is dead. There are no facts, only interpretations. He who fights with monsters should be careful, lest he become a monster. Friedrich Nietzsche. What kind of mind could write this? What kind of soul could look at everything humanity believed for thousands of years and whisper, it was all a lie? This chapter isn't just about ideas. It's about a war. A war between truth and comfort, between the herd and the individual, between the lies we inherit and the terrible freedom we're too afraid to claim. Welcome to Nietzsche's battle against morality. 1. The morality of slaves and masters. Nietzsche's philosophy didn't start with God is dead. It started with a question that every child asks, but adults ignore. Why is good good? Most people think morality is eternal, that it just exists, that being humble, kind, selfless, forgiving are obviously right. But Nietzsche said, no, these values didn't fall from heaven. They were created, and more importantly, they were created by the weak. According to Nietzsche, 2 kinds of morality. A, master morality, born from the strong, the noble, the confident. Master morality says, good is strength, power, courage, pride, and joy. Bad is weakness, ugliness, cowardice, mediocrity. Masters create values out of abundance, not guilt. They do not hate others, they affirm themselves. B. Slave morality, born from the oppressed, the envious, the weak. Slave morality says good is humility, obedience, meekness, charity. Evil is the powerful, the proud, the dominant. But why does the slave call strength evil? Because the slave is bitter. He cannot win in strength, so he flips the rules. He says, you are evil because you hurt me, but I, who do nothing, I am good. Thus, slave morality isn't about love, it's about resentment. Nietzsche called it ressentiment, a festering hatred disguised as virtue. 2. The invention of God and the death of him. Nietzsche saw religion, especially Christianity, as the ultimate victory of slave morality. In Christianity, who is the greatest figure? A man beaten, humiliated, crucified, who says, blessed are the meek, turn the other cheek, resist not evil, the first shall be last. To Nietzsche, this is not holy, it's the slave's revenge fantasy. Religion, he said, took the pain of the weak and wrapped it in righteousness. It made suffering holy, submission noble, and obedience divine. Christianity is the revenge of the sick against the healthy. But in the modern world, something changed. Science exploded, Darwin arrived, industry boomed, and slowly God disappeared. Not because he was disproven, but because we stopped believing. People went to church but didn't believe in miracles. They prayed but didn't fear judgment. They said God is love but lived like money, power, and ego were their real gods. So Nietzsche said it plainly, God is dead and we have killed him. He wasn't celebrating, he was warning us. If God is dead, what now? What replaces morality, meaning, truth, purpose? Nothing unless we create it. 3. Nihilism, the abyss of meaninglessness. Nihilism means the belief that life has no inherent meaning. If there is no God, no divine plan, no afterlife, then what is the point? For Nietzsche, this was the crisis of the modern world. Not that God was gone, but that we had no idea how to live without him. People would either cling to dead beliefs like zombies, drown in despair, or numb themselves with comfort and distraction. Nietzsche saw it all coming. What does nihilism mean? That the highest values devalue themselves. The aim is lacking. The answer to why is lacking. The 20th century, full of world wars, dictators, genocide, mass consumerism, addiction, and technological emptiness, proved him right. At 4, the Übermensch, the answer to the void. So what was Nietzsche's solution? He didn't say despair. He didn't say be evil. He said become who you are, live dangerously, be a lion. His answer was the Übermensch, the overman, the higher type of human who creates his own meaning in a meaningless world. The overman is not afraid of chaos, not reliant on religion or herd morality, not a follower but a creator. Joyful, powerful, dancing on the edge of the abyss. This isn't a superhero, it's a metaphor. The overman is what you could become if you dared to live fully. 5. The 3 metamorphoses of the spirit. Nietzsche described this transformation through a mythic story in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, the 3 metamorphoses. First, the camel. The camel is obedient. It carries heavy loads. It says yes to duty, tradition, religion, society. It suffers but endures. This is most people. But one day the camel collapses in the desert and becomes... Second, the lion. The lion says no. No to masters. No to rules. No to inherited values. It fights dragons named Thou Shalt. But the lion is still defined by what it resists. To be free, it must become... Third, the child. The child is innocent, a new beginning. It says yes to life, to creation, to its own values. It plays, invents, affirms. This is the true creator. This is the overman. Question, where are you in this journey? Camel, lion, or child? 6. The will to power. If there's no divine order, what drives life? Nietzsche's answer, the will to power. Not survival, not happiness, but power. The will to grow, expand, express, overcome. This doesn't mean dominating others. It means overcoming yourself. The plant breaking through soil's will to power. The artist breaking conventions, will to power. The person facing fear and choosing life, will to power. To Nietzsche, life is not about comfort. It's about challenge, struggle, rising again and again. The greatest sin? To be small, to be mediocre, to be safe. What is happiness? The feeling that power is growing, that resistance is being overcome. 7. Eternal return. Would you live it again? Nietzsche's most terrifying idea may be the eternal return. Imagine this. Every moment of your life, every mistake, heartbreak, joy, failure, regret will repeat forever. Would you scream in horror, or would you smile and say, yes, let it return, I lived fully? The eternal return is a test. If you can say yes to your life eternally, then you have become who you are meant to be. 8. Truth, masks, and the art of living. Nietzsche did not believe in absolute truth. He said truth is a mobile army of metaphors. What we call truth is just the story that won the battle. He was not interested in truth for its own sake. He was interested in what truth makes you become. We need lies to live. So Nietzsche played with masks, styles, contradictions. He wrote like a poet, a madman, a prophet. He believed life was not to be explained, but danced. That philosophy should not be a lecture, but a performance. 9. Against the herd. Think for yourself. Nietzsche hated the herd mentality. He believed that most people live like sheep. They obey, they follow, they believe what they're told. They confuse comfort with happiness, safety with freedom, conformity with morality. But the cost of being in the herd is that you lose your soul. Insanity in individuals is something rare, but in groups, parties, nations, and epochs, it is the rule. Nietzsche's call is dangerous. Don't follow, don't conform, don't obey, think, doubt, burn, create. 10. In his masterpiece, Beyond Good and Evil, Nietzsche says this: morality is just a prejudice. The idea of absolute good and evil is childish. Life is messy, ambiguous, full of shadow. Sometimes cruelty is part of growth. Sometimes kindness is cowardice. Sometimes destruction is necessary for rebirth. Nietzsche wants us to go beyond good and evil, not to become monsters, but to become adults. to see with clearer eyes and create our own compass. The fire within. Nietzsche's ideas were not safe. They were explosives. He didn't want followers. He wanted people who could hear his scream and become themselves. He is not easy. He is not soft. But if you dare to follow his thought, one thing is certain. You will never see life the same way again. I want to say in 10 sentences what others say in a whole book. He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how. One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. Friedrich Nietzsche. Now tell me, will you stay in the herd, or will you rise? At Chapter 3, Love, Betrayal and Madness, the Eternal Return of Pain. There was one woman who might have changed Nietzsche's fate. Lou Andreas Salome. Brilliant, independent, magnetic. Nietzsche fell in love instantly, but she rejected him. Not once, twice. Worse, she ran off with Nietzsche's friend, the poet Paul Ray. Nietzsche was shattered. He wrote to his friend, "My heart is broken, and with it my faith in mankind." Loneliness wrapped itself around him like a shroud. His health crumbled, blinding migraines, vomiting, insomnia. His body was disintegrating, and yet his pen burned hotter than ever. He wrote Thus Spoke Zarathustra, the book he believed would change humanity. He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how. Nietzsche, quoting a line that would later be repeated by Viktor Frankl. But no one read it. He published it with his own money. It sold fewer than 40 copies. He was screaming into the void. Chapter 4. The Descent into the Abyss, the laugh of the abyss. As his health failed, his ideas grew more apocalyptic. He foresaw a coming storm, a world without meaning, where nihilism would consume Western civilization. Man is a rope stretched between the animal and the Übermensch, a rope over an abyss. Nietzsche began to write like a prophet. His laughter echoed through madness. He turned on his former idols. Socrates, a sick man preaching reason to hide from life. Christianity, a religion of the weak, the broken, the defeated. Democracy, a herd mentality disguised as progress. He wrote Exe Homo, where he called himself a destiny. I am not a man, I am dynamite. But as Nietzsche's words grew bolder, his mind unraveled. He walked through the streets of Italy, mumbling to himself, sending bizarre letters signed Dionysus and the Crucified. He was entering the twilight of his sanity. Chapter 5. The Horse and the Collapse. Turin, 1889. January 3rd, 1889. Turin. Nietzsche saw a coachman beating a horse. He rushed forward, threw his arms around the animal's neck and collapsed, weeping, screaming. He was never lucid again. That image, Nietzsche cradling a horse, became a symbol of compassion, of madness, of divine collapse. From that day, Nietzsche descended into catatonia. He stopped writing, stopped speaking. He was 44 years old. At Chapter 6, The Final Silence, Elizabeth's Puppet. His sister Elizabeth took control of his writings and twisted them. She was a nationalist, a proto-fascist. She repackaged Nietzsche's ideas to fit a Germanic supremacy agenda. Even Adolf Hitler visited her. Nietzsche's face appeared in Nazi propaganda, despite the fact that Nietzsche hated anti-Semitism, nationalism, and state power. The state is the coldest of all cold monsters, Astra. Meanwhile, the real Nietzsche sat in silence for 11 years, his eyes vacant, a ghost of a mind that once defied the gods. Chapter 7. Death and Misunderstanding. The Grave of a God-Killer. August 25, 1900. Friedrich Nietzsche died of complications related to a stroke and pneumonia. His official cause of death, brain atrophy. Perhaps syphilis. Perhaps madness born of vision too intense. He died in the arms of his sister, a man betrayed by history, misunderstood by ideologues, consumed by his own fire. But his ideas would explode after death. Existentialists, postmodernists, psychologists, artists, revolutionaries, they all drank from Nietzsche's poison well. One must have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. Chapter 8. What did Nietzsche see? A warning for the future. Nietzsche was not a nihilist. He was a doctor of meaning in a world losing faith. He warned that without a new foundation, people would turn to fanaticism, to ideology, to empty pleasures and mass movements. He predicted the 20th century's horrors with disturbing accuracy. When you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you. He gazed, and he fell in. But through that fall, he left a message for all of us. Don't follow the herd. Don't inherit values, create them. Don't run from life, affirm it, even its pain. Chapter 9, The Eternal Return. Would you live this life again? Imagine this moment. Everything you've ever lived, every joy, every terror, repeating forever. Would you say yes? That's the eternal return. Nietzsche's ultimate test. Not a theory, a challenge. If you can embrace your life eternally, you have become who you are. Become who you are. Nietzsche. It's not about perfection, it's about authenticity. About dancing on the edge of meaning and madness, and still saying yes to life. Deep, he was the fire that burned too bright. The philosopher who screamed at God and then fell silent. He saw through the lies and paid with his sanity. Friedrich Nietzsche died as a man, but he lives as a mirror. A mirror that asks you, what do you live for, if not for God? What do you become when the world makes no sense? And would you live this life again?